than someone else. And so the reason I don't resonate with that way of thinking is because it doesn't build the camaraderie or rapport amongst your fellow human beings that is more beneficial. Instead of saying, let's consider ourselves elite or set apart, how can we say, how are we more alike, even as we share this common human experience together, as we try to figure things out? Are there things, for example, that I know that could be helpful to someone if they were to have access to that perspective, or vice versa, you know? I think those are really important components. And so, yeah, for those reasons are why I would also agree with you that way. And this is why I really appreciate Canada as an immigrant once upon a time. I really appreciate North America for the way that it opens up its borders in a very active way to say to the world, come, especially if you need to, come and make a new life, a new start. And we're going to make that possible. And I appreciate the kind of infrastructure it has in place to be able to model to these incoming immigrants a different way of what it could look like by way of accountability and equality. And I'm sure we still have our struggles with racism and so on, but by comparison, I would probably suggest we're here for a reason and not there.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm saying? And
100%.
so I do want to give honor where honor is due, especially to the things it does well. There are elements about our culture that we could desperately learn so much from those incoming cultures, about the strength of community and the strength of family connections, and so many other elements like that are really important that we're still lacking even here. But that's why I find it really helpful to take that stance that you're taking and saying, how can I learn from you? How can we together make our connection symbiotic in a really helpful way?
Yeah. No, for sure on that. Whereabouts did you immigrate from?
I was born in Ethiopia.
Okay.
But I grew up in Kenya till I was about 8 years old. So I moved here when I was fairly young.
Okay.
Once upon a time.
Yeah. See, and again, that I'm sure that gives you again a whole nother lens to see the world and to appreciate again that, like you said, how we open up the borders, and that's something that I've tried to be, because there's a lot of rhetoric now about stupid Trudeau and he wants too many immigrants and they're stealing our jobs, and it's like, okay, you have to, yes, okay, you're hurting. We won't invalidate that. But some of the assertions that you're making aren't necessarily factual, and your anger and outrage and your hurt is directed in the wrong place, right? And being more like, I think there are ways where some things have gone a little too far, where it's like, oh, you have to completely accept me for this, that, and the other. It's like, I respect you as a being, but doesn't mean I have to accept in this. Like, and if I'm not sure, don't get mad until we have that discussion so I can be better understanding. But if I make a mistake and you're upset, and that goes both ways, and there's, again, divisiveness. There's a lot of yelling and not a lot of listening.
Yeah. It really takes that piece, that communication piece, which is already, to start off with, a real struggle for so many of us. That communication piece to say, how can I understand your motivations, the background of how you got to your perspective in a way that facilitates that ongoing and further dialogue that has a sense of respectfulness on both sides, even if you still disagree after you come to a point of understanding. It takes massive patience.
Speed limit is 70 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
And willingness.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I found it really.
Speed and red light camera
Take
in
the
100
time,
meters.
Trying to look at
70
things,
kilometers
and
per
that,
hour.
I find it really interesting where you can see a lot of things where as time has marched forward, especially here, we're more fixated on the stuff and that, and less on the community. So we buy bigger and bigger houses But bigger the house, the more stuff you need to buy. The more stuff you need to buy, the more you have to work. The more you have to work, and you aren't fulfilled in your job, which tends to be a problem. The more angry you get, the more disassociated you become. And so you have a car, you have your house, you drive into your garage or whatever, and then as soon as you just go to work, head down, oh, I hate my job, blah blah blah. You do a job that you hate, etc., and then you don't want to see anybody. You drive back home, and now you want to relax, and so you disassociate and you watch reality shows and this and that, and it breaks down that culture and that community. And gone are the times where mom had a garden, dad had the shop, and their way of relaxing in that was building and growing and that kind of stuff, or community events, right? But I also see that there's especially COVID and all the problems that has come with that. There's more of that resurgence where it's like, hey, wait a minute, we actually have been missing community. How do we have community again?
Yeah, those elements that you were describing of how people by habit are averse to connections. It's that very thing that they're actually really desperate for, and they'd love to have, but they don't know how to actually get there. And so the MO usually is, how do I protect? How do I safeguard myself from never having to experience any potential for pain and vulnerability, which is the essential part for actually opening up and saying, hey, I really do desire this, right? And I guess in some way, even to speak on behalf of so many of those who don't know how to get to that point, I would probably even argue that it's not really been modeled very well. It hasn't been modeled very well so that they can say, oh, here's some options of how I can proceed into this kind of an experience, right? So they don't even have a starting place to even think about it unless they're open to getting help from a therapist, for example, to deal with their own stuff from their past issues, or some underlying dynamics that may inhibit such an end. Yeah.
And with that, though, sometimes you don't know what's broken. And when you don't know, and you don't know enough that you don't even know the questions to begin to ask, again, to help. And
very good point.
That's where the destigmatization of that, and being able to have vulnerability isn't a weakness. We all have our demons and issues and this and that, right? And that's okay. But what is not okay is lashing out, or just, and working that into the society where it's like, no, we're stronger together. We can be individuals, but in general, we are stronger as a whole, and that's why we are where we are.
Sure.
It's because we lifted each other out of the dirt instead of stepping on each other.
Agreed. We have about a minute in our ride here. I'm going to make a request. I would love for you to say no, though, if you don't feel comfortable with it, because that's also very important to me. But when I'm not driving my Uber, I create a lot of content online that seeks to inspire others in what connecting could look like, modeling what it could look like. And I come across some conversations in my Uber where I'm like, oh, this kind of stuff that we were talking about is really, I think it would be so helpful. But I never post the video of my time with my riders unless I have consent of my rider, because it's not everyone's shtick. Exactly. And so that's why I ask permission first and make sure that it is something that you're okay with or willing to be a part of. May I have your permission to post our time on my platform?
100%.
Sweet.
Speed limit is 70
Let me get you to
kilometers per
sign
hour.
off just in the last couple minutes here. This is a video consent form.
Speed and red light camera in 200 meters.
Just have a quick look at that there.
Speed limit is 70 kilometers per hour.
I appreciate you being willing to do that. These are some insights, I think, that serve so many, but like, again, they may not have had the resources that you and I have had to come to this point of intuition that says, this is really important,
No, and I totally agree, because to me, it's these kind of conversations and stuff that need to be had and shared, because it's, whether it's the stigmatization of being scared to ask, or not knowing to ask, or anything like that, it's no. And it's enlightening. It really is, where you're able to take a moment, and it's not about minimizing, oh, well, yeah, okay, my life's okay, but other people have it bad. Yes, other people might have it worse than you, but that doesn't mean you should just minimalize what the things that you're going through.
Yeah. Well put. Well, I didn't anticipate this conversation, but I thoroughly did enjoy it.
Likewise.
What are you most looking forward to on your time off here?
Friends and family, really.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's been a while since you've had time with them.
It definitely has, and again, especially given that I will be leaving. I'll be leaving in less than 6 months. It definitely makes it like I might come
Important.
back, I might visit, but
Yeah.
it's still, you know.
Yeah, I totally hear you.
Thank you again so much.
Pleasure was mine. I'm so thrilled to have had this time with you, Chris.
Likewise. Take care. Sorry, I do have to get
No,
to
I
my
totally hear
dental
you, yeah.
appointment, but take care and
Happy travels.
likewise.
Okay,
Thank you.
see you, Chris.